We are almost there. 4 o'clock Eastern, technically the start of the new league year and free agency, but let's face it, it has begun. Let's look at the running market, the chips that have already fallen into place. Dion Lewis to the Titans, 4 years, $23 million, 11.5 of which is set to be guaranteed. The Cleveland Browns have been extremely active in the early going here of free agency. They added a quarterback, a wide receiver, and now a running back in the form of Carlos Hyde. He agrees to a 3-year deal with the Browns worth more than $15 million. That includes $6 million in the first year. And Jerick McKinnon, he's got himself a new deal. 4 years, $30 million with the 49ers. This was first reported by our Adam Schefter. Again, as we take a look at the running backs making their way. Finally, Jonathan Stewart to the New York Giants. Eli Manning gets additional help. Jonathan Stewart has signed with the Giants. And we've asked this question before with these running backs. The teams who needed them went out and paid. We'll talk in just a little bit about if they paid too much. But here's what Jonathan Stewart had to say. If I can read it, a lot left in who can read that?
I've got a lot
I can't
left.
see it.
The only reason why I would be playing is if I knew I could play, and I know I can play. There's a lot that I feel that I want to prove. I got your back with me.
Okay, and the intonation was perfect, so I appreciate the help. So we're going to talk about the running backs, but Shefty's got some news, I think, coming in also.
A moment ago, the Detroit Lions just released their tight end, Eric Ebron. They looked around the league to see if they could find a trade partner for him. And I think the problem here was that he was due $8 million this year.
I would say that was the problem.
So there were teams that were interested in him, but they were not interested in him at that particular price. And because the price was as high as it was, the Lions had a hard time finding a trade partner, and they have just now released Eric Ebron. He will immediately become a free agent. He will be free to sign with any other team here, and we'll see what happens with Eric Ebron in the open market.
And just to
Eric Ebron is a failed #1 draft
Well,
choice.
that was the point.
Well, let me say this.
Wow.
And he has failed abysmally.
Keep this in mind. They
could
took
have drafted.
Bill,
They could have
do not
drafted
take the fifth.
Odell Beckham Jr. or Aaron Donald
Exactly.
or Zach Martin.
Right.
And those are the players picked right after Eric Ebron. They thought Eric Ebron would turn into Jimmy Graham in that offense. That did not happen.
Right
Well,
now
Eric Ebron did not succeed because he was not mature enough to handle life in the National Football League. He did not do what it takes to win in the National Football League. Hopefully, this is a wake-up call for a guy with an awful lot of talent who hasn't used it.
I'm going back to what Bill Parcells likes to say. If somebody shows you who they are, you better believe them.
Yeah.
Believe them.
Maya Angelou.
In regards to the process of this, you know, sometimes when players get cut like this, it comes out of nowhere and they're surprised. But in terms of how the Detroit Lions handled this, they communicated with Eric Ebron. They said, listen, we're looking to trade you. He was well aware that this was happening. In fact, he was called into the front office there a few days ago, and he thought he was actually going to get cut at that point. But they just told him, right now, we're looking for a trade partner. We want you here. We want to make it work if we can't. But as of now, as we now have learned that he's been cut.
We know the Lions are also in the market for a running back, and we started by sort of surveying the landscape. Boy, are they, is right. Where's a fit? Who's out there as far as
Detroit Lions?
Detroit Lions.
Frank Gore. Frank Gore has when the free agency period starts, the expectation is that he will take a visit there later on today unless something changes. But I was in communication with him earlier today, and that's the expectation once it starts.
And they've already visited with DeMarco Murray, so that's Gore. There's Murray. Jonathan Stewart was there. Jonathan Stewart.
More physical element in the back with what they have.
Is the right guy for them if he can pass the physical, because they have enough scat backs, Abraham, et cetera.
Theo Riddick.
Theo Riddick. They need a big power blaster who can hopefully be a bell cow. Now, I don't know if Murray's had a lot of injuries over time, and I don't know if he still can be a bell cow, but that style of back is what they need.
Just so people understand, when you're looking at the running game, their running game really still is a function of the passing game. They have gone 68 straight games without a 100-yard rusher. I believe it was Thanksgiving of 2013.
That's correct. Thanksgiving Day 2013
was the last time they had a 100-yard rusher in a game. So they have tried all kinds of ways to manufacture it, and it hasn't worked.
Their biggest problem, however, has been the inability to run in the red zone, short yardage and goal line. If you can't run in the red zone, it's awfully difficult to score, and they need a banger who can do that.
Yeah, and you see the money is going to the multi-dimensional running backs.
Right.
They're coming to the guys who can play 3 downs, the guys who are three-down weapons. The big power blasters that Bill's talking about, those guys are usually a little bit older, a little bit more banged up. We're going to have to come at a little bit more of a price that is favorable to the team. The money's going. Hey, the game has changed again. I'm going to talk about that from now up until the draft. The money is going to the people who play three downs, who can play the new style of game that's being played, especially at running back. That's why you see Jerick McKinnon getting signed. Yeah. That's why you see Deion Lewis getting signed. Absolutely. That's why Le'Veon Bell is saying, taking notes.
And if you don't get one, then multiple signings. Right. Murray wouldn't be enough. You need another, not just Murray.
But I'm saying the top dollar is going to those types of people.
But it is interesting that Jerick McKinnon got 4-year, $30 million, so that's a 7.5 APY. Had 570 rushing yards. Carlos Hyde, 3-year, $15 million deal. That's a $5 million average, for him. And he had 938 rushing yards. So just to your point in terms of where the money is going and how, and obviously free agency would this up to that.
Let's look at the vision and the running back by committee vision. Like a guy like Kyle Shanahan, the head coach of the 49ers, has. You go there, you're going to run for 800 to 1,200 yards. I mean, just with Jerick McKinnon is not going to be a bell cow, but he's going to fit within that. Just as Carlos Hyde actually had a very productive season under him. But remember, running backs, and this is another draft that is deep in running backs.
Is that bell cow money for McKinnon?
Well, let me say this.
It is because here's what he does. He's, as Lou said, he is the perfect three-down back.
Yes.
And Minnesota didn't believe he was a three-down back. They fell into it because their number one guy got hurt early in the season, the draft choice from Florida State.
Cook, yeah.
And McKinnon came on and carried the ball from scrimmage better than anybody thought that he could. We had a lot of their games on ESPN radio, and I was shocked at how well he ran the ball as the season went on. So what San Francisco saw was that tape, a guy who was a third down back who can run routes and catch the ball and be really good in that phase of the game, who can also carry it for you. So
listen, outside of Le'Veon Bell, he got more money than any running back in the free agent market. There was a veritable bidding war between the New York Jets and the 49ers. This was the player, as much as any free agent out there, that the 49ers wanted on their roster. They bid late last night to go get him. They made that deal happen. It is a rich deal, more richer than people thought it would be. Yeah. But this is the player that they really wanted.
And just real quick for context, for Devontae Freeman to be in the 8 range and then Jerick McKinnon to be in that 7.5 range, that's letting you see just where he is when you're comparing him to the Falcons starting running back.
And it isn't necessarily about body type either. Look, Deion Lewis, he can bang between the tackles as good as anybody.
Right.
And Deion Lewis is about that tall.
Yeah,
what's wrong with that?
Nothing, Adam. What you just said, though, might have been one of the recurring themes we're hearing in this free agency. It was a bidding war between the Jets and the 49ers. It was a bidding war between the Jets and a lot of people are looking at the Jets who have a lot of money to spend and are choosing to go somewhere else.
You know who wins there? The player.
That's
every
exactly
time.
But it's just interesting. You hear the Jets coming up short quite a bit in this free agent market.
Deion Lewis is an interesting fit for Tennessee because they have been bang and blast under Mike
Marco
Mularkey
and Derrick Henry.
Yeah. Now they got Derrick Henry and Deion Lewis, who may have the best shake and bake, make you miss in the league.
Yeah, and they
the
needed
guy's
that.
a magician.
They needed that.
And they need
Absolutely.
that. And this is going to make Marcus Mariota a much better quarterback because he can dump the ball and get big plays out of Deion Lewis.
Yeah, there was no threat of that. If I'm a defensive player going against the Titans last year, I mean, I know what I'm getting with the backs that are coming in. There's no creativity. Now there is.
I got a little news here. Former Jets linebacker now, Demario Davis is expected to sign with the New Orleans Saints.
Wow.
3 years, $24 million, $18 million in guaranteed money.
Look at what we're talking about with the New Orleans Saints. Cornerbacks and linebackers. They were a really good defense a year ago under Dennis Allen, the defensive coordinator. It's been all about offense the last few years. That defense, really the biggest reason they got back into the postseason this past year after 3 years missed.